Hundreds of Persian arrows darkened the sky. Inside the narrow pass of Thermopylae, 300 Spartans locked their bronze shields together alongside their Greek allies, ready to face an invasion force that may have numbered in the hundreds of thousands. They knew they would not survive. Yet their defiance and sacrifice became one of the most famous last stands in human history. This is the story of King Leonidas and the immortal Battle of Thermopylae, the stand that saved Western civilization. To understand the sheer scale of the conflict at Thermopylae, we must look eastward at the rise of the Achaemenid Persian Empire. Founded by Cyrus the Great and expanded under Darius I, Persia was the largest and most powerful empire the ancient world had ever seen, stretching across 3 continents, from Egypt and modern-day Turkey all the way to the borders of India. 10 years earlier, in 490 BC, a Persian expedition sent to punish Athens was defeated on the beaches of Marathon. Determined to avenge his father's defeat and erase Greek independence once and for all, King Xerxes I spent 4 years assembling a gargantuan invasion force. Mobilizing warriors, engineers, and warships from every corner of his vast empire, Xerxes built boat bridges across the Hellespont and cut a canal right through the Mount Athos Peninsula. His objective was absolute: march south, burn Athens, and subjugate every Greek city-state beneath the Persian yoke. While most Greek city-states were centers of commerce, philosophy, or naval trade, Sparta was a radical, uncompromising society engineered from birth for a single purpose: war. Located in the rugged Eurotas River Valley of the Peloponnese, Sparta relied on a vast population of enslaved laborers called helots to work the fields, freeing every Spartan citizen to dedicate their entire existence to military discipline. Around the age of 7, Spartan boys were taken from their mothers and entered the agoge, a state-run, brutal regime of physical conditioning, survival drilling, and psychological hardening. The boys went barefoot year-round, wore only a single light tunic even in freezing winter, and were encouraged to steal food to hone their stealth and resourcefulness, so long as they were never caught. Discipline, absolute obedience to the state, and collective phalanx coordination defined every breathing moment of their lives. When a Spartan warrior marched out to battle, his mother or wife would hand him his heavy bronze shield with the legendary warning: return with your shield or on it. To lose your shield in battle meant you had fled. To return upon it meant you had died an honorable warrior's death defending Sparta. Leading this warrior society during its most perilous hour was King Leonidas I. Born around 540 BC into the ancient Aegead royal dynasty, which claimed direct blood descent from the demigod Heracles, Leonidas was not originally in line for the throne. Because he had older brothers, he was one of the very few Spartan kings who had endured the full, exhausting brutality of the agoge education during his youth. He ascended the throne around 490 BC as a hardened, battle-tested veteran in his 50s. When news of Xerxes' massive invasion reached Greece in 480 BC, dozens of normally bitter rival Greek city-states put aside their blood feuds and formed a defensive council at Corinth. Recognizing that the sheer numbers of the Persian army would overwhelm them on open plains, Greek commanders devised a brilliant bottleneck strategy. On land, they would hold the narrow coastal pass of Thermopylae, the Gates of Fire, where the steep mountain cliffs of Mount Oida dropped directly into the Aegean Sea. Simultaneously, the combined Greek naval fleet would block the Persian armada at the nearby Straits of Artemisium. At Thermopylae, Persian numerical superiority would count for nothing. Every inch of ground would have to be paid for in blood. In August of 480 BC, King Leonidas marched north to Thermopylae, leading an allied Greek vanguard of roughly 7,000 hoplites. With him were his personal royal bodyguard, 300 elite Spartan citizens, every single one a veteran who already had living sons back home to carry on their family bloodline. Arriving at the narrow pass, which was scarcely 60 feet wide at its narrowest point, the Greeks reinforced an ancient stone wall and waited. Soon after, the earth shook as Xerxes arrived with his colossal army. Astonished that such a tiny force dared to block his path, Xerxes waited 4 days for the Greeks to disperse in terror. When they stood their ground, the Persian monarch sent a mounted envoy demanding that Leonidas hand over their weapons. According to ancient sources, Leonidas offered 2 immortal words of defiance: molon labe, come and take them. Outraged, Xerxes ordered his Median and Sicyan infantry to attack. As the Persians funneled into the narrow pass, the Greek hoplites locked their bronze shields into a solid, impenetrable wall of bronze and ashwood spears. The lightly armed Persian infantry, carrying wicker shields and short swords, were slaughtered by the thousands against the Macedonian and Spartan spear points. The narrow terrain turned the battle into an absolute meat grinder. Watching his initial assault waves annihilated from his golden royal throne overlooking the pass, King Xerxes grew increasingly frustrated. For the second day of battle, he unleashed his ultimate trump card: 10,000 elite royal bodyguards known throughout the ancient world as the Immortals. Clad in scale armor beneath rich robes and trained in relentless combat, the Immortals were supposed to break any line on Earth. But inside the narrow bottleneck of Thermopylae, even the Immortals could not penetrate the Greek shield wall. Leonidas executed brilliant tactical feints, ordering his Spartans to pretend to panic and retreat in confusion. When the overconfident Immortals broke their ranks to pursue them down the pass, the Spartans wheeled around in unison with terrifying discipline, locking their shields and counterattacking with devastating slaughter. Wave after wave of Persian elite troops crashed against the Spartan phalanx and were broken. By the end of the second day, Greek casualties remained remarkably low, while thousands of Persian corpses choked the pass. Greek morale soared, while inside the royal Persian tent, Xerxes was plunged into despair. Thermopylae could not be taken by direct assault, but on the evening of the second day, a local Greek shepherd named Ephialtes walked into Xerxes' camp seeking a rich royal reward. Ephialtes revealed a secret, narrow goat path called the Anapaia Trail that wound high through the mountains right around the Greek flank. That night, under the cover of darkness, 20,000 Persian immortals marched along the mountain path. At dawn on the third day, Greek scouts ran down from the heights with chilling news. The Persians had outflanked the pass and were marching to trap them from behind. Leonidas faced a fateful choice. Knowing the pass was lost, he immediately ordered the majority of the allied Greek army to retreat south while the road was still open. But Leonidas and his 300 Spartans refused to leave. With them remained 700 loyal warriors from Thespiae under their commander Demophilus, and 400 soldiers from Thebes who chose to share their fate. Surrounded from both front and rear, Leonidas ordered his men into the widest part of the pass for one final desperate charge. When their spears shattered against the Persian masses, they drew their short swords. When their swords broke, they fought with shields, hands, and teeth. Leonidas fell fighting bravely in the thickest of the melee. The surviving Greeks rallied 4 times around their fallen king's body before being finally overwhelmed under a cloud of Persian arrows. Xerxes had captured Thermopylae, but his victory came at a staggering, demoralizing price. Over 20,000 Persian soldiers lay dead across the rocky pass, including 2 of Xerxes' own brothers. Outraged by the fierce resistance, Xerxes ordered Leonidas' fallen body desecrated, an uncharacteristic act that shocked the ancient world. Persia marched south and burned Athens to the ground, but the heroic sacrifice of Leonidas and his men had ignited an unquenchable fire across Greece. Thermopylae bought precious time for the Greek city-states to unite their forces and prepare their naval defenses. Just weeks later, the Greek fleet, led by Athenian statesman Themistocles, lured the Persian armada into the narrow straits of Salamis and annihilated them. The following spring of 479 BC, a massive united Greek army led by Spartan regent Pausanias crushed the remaining Persian land forces at the Battle of Plataea. Persia's invasion was permanently defeated. Over the centuries, Thermopylae became immortalized as the ultimate symbol of courage, duty, and self-sacrifice. A commemorative stone plaque was erected atop the burial mound of the defenders at the pass, bearing the famous epitaph written by Simonides. "Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie." Because Thermopylae is one of the most celebrated events in human history, it is frequently surrounded by popular modern mythology. Let us separate archaeological fact from Hollywood fiction. First, while ancient historian Herodotus claimed Xerxes commanded over 2 million men, modern military historians estimate the true Persian army numbered between 100,000 and 300,000 soldiers. Still an overwhelming, terrifying force. Second, the 300 Spartans did not fight alone. Over 7,000 Greek allies fought during the first 2 days, and 1,400 loyal Thespian and Theban warriors stayed with Leonidas for the final last stand. And third, unlike the stylized, bare-chested appearance seen in modern films, historical Spartan hoplites went into battle heavily armored in bronze chest breastplates, greaves, and Corinthian helmets, carrying heavy circular shields that formed a nearly impenetrable wall of bronze. Yet, despite these historical nuances, the core truth of Thermopylae remains unchanged. King Leonidas and his warriors willingly stood their ground against insurmountable odds to defend their homeland.
King Leonidas did not win the Battle of Thermopylae, but human history does not remember him because he won. It remembers him because he stood his ground when defeat was certain, inspiring countless generations with an enduring, immortal example of courage, leadership, and sacred duty. While Leonidas became a legend through sacrifice, across the world centuries later, another leader would rise to forge the largest contiguous land empire in human history through sheer speed and conquest. In our next episode, we follow the extraordinary rise of Genghis Khan, the man who transformed the warring Mongol tribes into an unstoppable, revolutionary war machine. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now so you don't miss it.